He found the cave during a school field trip. Chris had decided to disobey the teacher's warnings and explore on his own. The school made the trip to the valley where a feudal lord once governed a town, and while the teacher was explaining the history of the place, Chris spotted the castle from afar. How could he resist the feeling of adventure? While he walked, Chris saw the remains of the town. Many buildings were destroyed due to the passage of time, and most of them were covered by vegetation. He could not believe why the teacher wanted to stay on the edge of town. Here he could perceive more and better the medieval essence of the place. He felt like a peasant walking down the street, making his way to the castle. But before he arrived, something caught his attention. A small hole in a wall. The opening was just big enough for the boy to fit through. The boy's adventurous spirit did the rest. He took out the flashlight that he brought in his backpack and crawled inside until he came out into a beautiful room. The light filtered through a hole in the ceiling, where there was a piece of antique blue stained glass illuminating the room with different bluish tones. Most of the room was blocked by dirt and rock, leaving just a small space for him to move. There were the remains of a bed, a very elegant chair, and a hand-sculpted nightstand, all burned. But there was another object in the room, a mirror. Unlike the rest of the objects in the cave, the mirror was completely intact. Chris approached slowly and was surprised not to see his reflection. The room in the mirror was completely different from the one he was in. The furniture was intact, and the dirt that covered the room did not exist. It was replaced by more furniture and a beautiful wardrobe. Chris could see the light from the outside, reddish, almost like a sunset. But that was impossible. When he arrived, it was almost noon. He turned to see the room behind him, totally in ruins and covered with earth and debris. In fact, the window he saw in the other room was nowhere on his side. He stretched out his hand and touched the surface of the mirror. The glass was cold. The door to the other room opened, and a woman dressed as a maid entered and prepared the bed. The boy watched as the maid opened and adjusted the sheets with an expert hand. Then she went to the fireplace and lit it in a few seconds. After she finished her work, she went out. The room was as lonely as it had been at the beginning. The boy waited in case the woman returned, but a few minutes passed without the door opening again. When he was about to give up, a little girl entered the room. She seemed to be the same age as him, her brown hair contrasting with her white sleeping dress. The girl climbed into her bed and covered herself with the sheets, ready to sleep, but she stopped when she looked up at the mirror. Her eyes met Chris's, and the girl opened her mouth in shock. She got off the bed and carefully approached the glass. When she was in front of Chris, her mouth opened even more, and the boy couldn't stop staring at her. The girl's mischievous gray eyes swept over him, unable to believe what they were seeing.
Hello.
Hi.
He waved, still confused at the girl's vision in the other room. Could there be another room inside the ruins?
Who are you?
My name is Chris. What's yours?
My name is Mary. Are you a sorcerer?
A sorcerer? No, why will I be one?
Because you are inside my mirror. Only sorcerers are capable of that.
But sorcerers don't exist.
So how is it possible that you are in my mirror?
Chris looked at the glass without knowing what to answer, because he did not have an answer to that question.
Why does everything look so different where you are?
I don't know. I got separated from my group and found this cave.
Group? Like an excursion? Is it possible for a 10-year-old to travel with explorers?
What are you talking about? I'm talking about a school trip. You know, for education.
No. Excursions can only be made by explorers who want to expand the kingdom, look for habitable places, and colonize them. This has been the case for several centuries.
What century are you from? That hasn't been done in years.
You are delusional. This is the 13th century of our Lord Jesus Christ. Why are you making that face?
But that's impossible. I live in the 21st century. How is it possible?
Isn't it obvious? It's a magic mirror.
But, well, magic doesn't exist. There are just a bunch of tricks that magicians do to fool people.
Then how do you explain this?
I don't know.
Told you. Magic.
Chris smiled. He liked something about that girl. The boy didn't have a single friend at school. The rest of his classmates used to pick on him, steal his lunch money, and his head had visited the toilet more times than he could count or want to admit.
How is it?
How is what?
There, the place you were in. How are things there?
Well, everything is in ruins.
No, idiot. I mean the 21st century.
Oh, that.
Chris didn't know what to answer. He had never tried to explain to someone about the 21st century. As best as he could, he tried to explain to her about cars, airplanes, the internet, how people could communicate remotely using cell phones, and even mentioned canned food. Mary heard Chris with total interest. She asked him on several occasions to draw certain things to understand them better, and although the boy tried his best, the drawings were not very good. However, Mary laughed at his effort, and in return, she also described her life. She said that her father had been the owner of the fief since her grandfather died. On the outskirts of the fortress, there was a small town that used to pay tribute once a month. She also noted how a teacher from a nearby church used to visit the place to instruct her in various subjects. Chris wished that his teachers could come to his house and save himself the trouble of getting up early and all the bullying. They continued their conversation for a couple of hours. Chris's notebook was almost halfway through of so many drawings when the boy heard someone shouting his name in the distance. He immediately recognized the voice of his teacher, who was desperately looking for him. Surely, after finding him, they would all scold him for sneaking out, and the longer it took, the worse the punishment would be.
I'm sorry, I have to go.
Wait, don't go.
I'll be in trouble if I don't go back.
Will I see you again?
He paused for a moment, considering the question. A part of him felt sad. He didn't want to leave that place. In just a couple of hours, he felt that Mary was his first friend he had.
I will try to return.
Promise?
I'll try my best.
For a moment, he thought that Mary would say something, but she just smiled and waved goodbye. Unexpectedly, he smiled too, waved goodbye, and went into the hole to get out. Once outside, the teacher's voice could be heard getting closer. He had the impulse to run towards her, but he thought it would be better to hide the entrance that led to that mysterious room with the mirror. He found it, so it was his secret to keep. He worked quickly, placing several branches that he found on the ground and a few stones so that the hole was hidden as possible. When he finished, he went to the teacher. Seeing Chris, she ran and hugged him, happy to finally find him. Then she pulled one of his ears and led him to the bus, which was ready to leave. The school bus returned home. The teacher told Chris that once they returned to the school, she would call his parents to speak about sneaking out of the group to explore on his own. But Chris wasn't paying attention. He was more focused on memorizing the path the bus was taking. A whole week passed before he had the chance to return to the ruins of the fiefdom. The boy took his bicycle and went all the way to the remote place. When he arrived, his legs were burning, as were his lungs. He removed the branches with which he had hidden the hole and stepped into the darkness a second time. The room was still as he had found it the first time. The mirror was still hanging on the wall. He quickly approached it and examined the glass. On the other side, he could still see Mary's room, but now the light on the side was brighter. It seemed barely midday. Mary was lying on her bed while she read a small book. She seemed absorbed in it. Without having a better idea, the boy tapped on the glass to get her attention, although he thought she wouldn't hear him. However, the girl looked up and smiled when she saw him. She quickly jumped out of the bed and approached the mirror.
You're back!
I am. Hi.
Took you long enough? Why did it take you so long to come back? I waited for you all week.
It wasn't my fault. My mom grounded me for sneaking out from my teachers.
Grounded? Like they put you on the earth?
Yeah, you know, in the 21st century, they bury you when you do something wrong.
Holy God, that is terrible!
No. I'm joking. She only took my video games away.
Oh, you scared me for a minute. What is a video game?
Chris smiled and tried his best to explain video games. Mary heard the boy with genuine interest, and that first question led to another one, then another one. He, on the other hand, felt happy that he finally had someone to talk to. They spent the whole day talking, sharing their lives and their differences. While Chris tried to explain the 21st century to her, Mary told him about her life in the fiefdom. Since she was the only daughter of the feudal lord, she didn't have too many friends of her age to talk to. Something Chris could relate to.
I gotta go. If I don't return soon, my mom's going to ground me again.
Is she going to prohibit you from playing those video games again?
No, I think she's actually going to bury me this time.
Will you come back to speak with me?
Yes I will.
Promise?
Promise.
Chris continued to visit Mary whenever he could. The frequency of their meetings increased until the boy went daily to the ruins of the distant fiefdom. On one occasion, Mary suggested that he take the mirror from the old room and take it home to prevent it from traveling too much. But he refused since he feared that the magical connection of the object would be broken if he did that. Besides, the boy had already gotten used to riding his bicycle to such a distant place. Several years passed, and their friendship grew stronger. Chris began to gain confidence and made friends at his school, but he never neglected his visits to Mary. Even when he started to grow, he carried a shovel on his bike to make the hole bigger so he could pass through. But one day, something changed. Chris, already 16 years old, came to the mirror one day and waited for his friend to arrive. When Mary entered the room, he was surprised. She was no longer the same girl that Chris had known years before. She was now a quite beautiful young woman. He was stunned to see her. His heart began to beat intensely in his chest, and he felt a slight warmth that settled on his cheeks.
Hey, stranger.
Hi, Mary.
Why are you looking at me like that? You don't like my dress?
No, I mean, yeah, I like it. It's just, you look different.
Yeah, well, my dad wants me to meet some guys. Marriage prospects.
Oh, I see. They must be pretty handsome lords.
Yes, some are, but thankfully my father will allow me to choose the person I need to marry. And I still have 2 years for that.
I see. Anyway, you look beautiful.
Thank you.
When she smiled at him, that's when he realized that he no longer saw her as just a friend. Something had emerged in him, something that made him want to be with her all the time. Every time she smiled, his heart skipped a beat in his chest. Even those gray eyes that he constantly saw became more beautiful to him. But he also felt a hole in his heart. He knew he could not be with her. She said she was going to marry a lord in her time, and there's nothing he could do about it. But that didn't mean he stopped talking with her. He felt a connection with her. She was still his first friend, and he didn't want to lose that. Time continued to pass, as Chris and his feelings for Mary continued to grow. Eventually, Chris entered college. He wanted to become a historian. Thanks to all of his conversations with Mary, he developed a taste for history. It took him a while, but eventually Chris was able to convince his teacher to tell him about Mary's fiefdom. His teacher took him to his office and told him everything. Chris even surprised him with his knowledge of the fiefdom.
You really know about this place, don't you?
Yeah, it's just that there was this time when I went to a school trip when I was little, and I don't know, it piqued my interest since then.
That's amazing that someone so young feels so invested in history. Especially this one. You see, the story of this fiefdom is very tragic.
How come?
Well, when the last feudal lord was reigning, there was an attack from another lord. There is the story that the daughter didn't want to marry the lord, and since it was very good territory, he took some retaliation.
Wait, what happened to her? To the daughter?
Well, the attack was gruesome. The lord burned the whole town to the ground, and it was said he killed the whole family, but... Hey, where are you going?
Chris was terrified, took his bicycle, and pedaled as fast as he could. When he arrived at the ruins, he was covered in sweat and tired, but he did not waste a single second and entered the hole. Seeing the burned furniture in the room, he finally understood the reason why they were like this, and his fear increased. He approached the mirror, but Mary was not in her room. On the other side, it was night, but an orange light could be seen on the distant balcony, and Chris could hear the screams of the people. Just at that moment, Mary ran in. Chris was relieved to see her safe and sound, but he soon noticed the fear on her face. Terrified, he called her name.
Mary!
And Mary turned to look at him. Chris froze. Her face was covered in ash and dirt, and a trickle of blood ran down from her forehead to her cheek. The beautiful dress she wore was also stained with blood, which the young man hoped was not hers. Her gray eyes looked distorted by the tears that were gathering in them.
Mary, what happened?
We were attacked. Someone tried to take the place. They killed my parents.
Mary, listen to me. I know it's difficult for you, but you have to run away. You need to escape from those men.
I can't. They laid siege to the whole place and no one can get out.
No! There must be a way. There must be another way out.
I'm trapped here.
Chris felt his heart break. She had given up and accepted her death at the hands of the invaders. His teacher told him this had already happened. He knew he couldn't save her.
I don't want to lose you.
There's nothing you can do. We both knew this wouldn't last. For God's sake, we're talking through a mirror hundreds of years away. Why? Why did you keep coming back after so many years?
Because...
An explosion happened behind Mary. Rocks flew, and she barely ducked out of the way.
Mary!
Chris saw the rock cracking the mirror, and all the sound from the other side went silent. She stood up to look at him. She said something, but no sound came through. He could see how she was giving up, how she accepted her death. And perhaps this was the last moment they had. Chris took out a pen from his backpack and wrote a single sentence.
I fell in love with you.
He showed her the message, and she looked at him, surprised. Then she smiled, a sad but sincere smile. Mary placed her palm against the mirror as he did so. He knew. She loved him too. He was the reason why Mary didn't want to marry the Lord. Her father wanted to respect her wishes, but now there was no way the two of them could be together. Chris started to smell sulfur, blood, and burnt wood, but also perfume. Mary's perfume. He could feel the warmth of Mary's hand. The mirror was doing something. It was opening a portal to her time. He could do it. He could bring her into his time. The mirror was giving him an opportunity. But behind Mary, a catapult projectile wrapped in flames appeared, heading towards her at a high speed. Chris couldn't react in time. A flash covered the mirror, and then Chris felt a sharp pain in his hand. Chris was stunned, and it took him a while to notice that in the broken mirror, he could only see his own reflection. A thread of blood covered the surface of the glass. He removed his hand and looked at the cut. The connection that once existed between Chris and Mary's time no longer existed. The boy felt the warmth of his tears as they ran down his cheeks. A few seconds. If only he had a few more seconds, he could have saved her. He was sure of that, but now it was all over. Mary had died several years ago, along with the rest of her family. He felt his legs weak, but managed to stand up and left the room. He felt that somewhere beneath him were Mary's remains turned to dust. The dark thought of her made him shudder. Once outside, he turned to see the thief and shouted as loud as he could, bringing out all the fury and pain in him. Chris was in the library, his last week as a student, as he was about to become a full-fledged historian. He wanted to dedicate himself completely to the study of the fiefdom where Mary used to live, even writing a book. He had a feeling that in this way he could keep her alive, even if it was only in his memories. So, a couple hours passed, as he was so immersed in his reading that he didn't notice a person who sat in front of him. A few minutes passed before a small sheet of paper landed on the lines of the book.
Hello, stranger.
Chris looked at the note in amazement. The handwriting was beautiful and impeccable, written in cursive with the beautiful details. He looked up and saw a beautiful girl with brown hair copying paragraphs from a book. The smile on her lips gave her away as the author of the message. That girl's face seemed familiar to him. He took the message, took a pen from his backpack, and wrote,
My name is Chris. What is your name?
He passed the piece of paper to the middle of the table and watched as the girl took it. When she read it, the smile appeared again on the face of that mysterious person. Almost eagerly, she wrote again and handed the paper.
I think you already know it.
He looked at the girl again as she brushed her hair behind her ear. That's when Chris noticed the scar on her hand, one so similar to the one he had gotten some time ago. Finally, the strange girl looked up, and Chris saw beautiful gray eyes that he knew all too well.
I see the cracks inside the mirror, shattered glass that hides my face. Every piece a broken whisper, echoes lost I can't replace. Hold me together, I'm slipping away. Fragments of me are starting to fray. Fragments of me scattered in time,